restaurant manager accused of shooting and killing his co-worker's father. In the past hour, a Fulton County magistrate judge decided there was enough probable cause to send the case against Maurice Evans to the grand jury.
A father picks up his phone on a Sunday afternoon in December 2025 and hears something that makes his blood run cold. Not a scream, not a cry for help, just muffled voices. Tension he can feel through the speaker. His teenage daughter didn't mean to call him. Her phone slipped, dialed by accident while she argued with her manager at work. He tries calling back. No answer. So Dominique Goodman gets in his car and drives 20 miles from Morrow to Palmetto, Georgia. He doesn't know what he's walking into. He just knows his daughter needs him. When he pulls into that Bojangles parking lot on Roosevelt Highway, a 23-year-old man is waiting. Engine running, gun loaded. 10 minutes earlier, Maurice Evans clocked out of his shift, but he didn't go home. 8 gunshots shatter the afternoon. On 3 of them hit Dominique in the back while he's already on the ground. Families inside keep eating. The drive-thru keeps running, and a father dies in broad daylight over an argument about a window left open in the cold. Welcome to Domestic Crime Ledger. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Let's get into it. December 7th, 2025. A Sunday afternoon in Palmetto, Georgia. The Bojangles on Roosevelt Highway is busy like any weekend lunch rush. Customers ordering fried chicken, cars lined up at the drive-thru. Nothing out of the ordinary. Behind the counter, a teenage girl named Amari Goodman is working her shift. She's trying to make her own money, be independent. Her manager that day is Maurice Evans, 23 years old. His wife works at the same location. Amari's father is Dominique Goodman, 43 years old, father to multiple children. For 3 years, he's been a top salesman at Honda South in Morrow, about 20 miles west of Palmetto. The kind of dad his kids can count on, the kind who answers when they call. That Sunday, things go wrong fast. Amari and Maurice Evans get into it. Not once, multiple times. First argument, someone left the drive-thru window open, cold air pouring in. Evans tells Amari to close it. She pushes back, voices rise. Second argument, food contamination. Evans says Amari is mixing hot and cold items wrong. Health code violation. She disagrees. More tension. Another manager steps in, separates them. Everyone thinks it's over, but it's not. The arguing moves to the back office, gets louder. Amari fumbles with her phone, trying to call her father. Instead, she pocket dials him by accident. Dominique hears the chaos through the line, hears his daughter's voice strained and upset. He tries calling back. No answer. Dominique doesn't text, doesn't wait for an explanation. He grabs his wife and gets in the car. 20-mile drive from Morrow to Palmetto. He's coming to check on his daughter. Here's what doesn't make sense. Maurice Evans clocks out at 1:05 in the afternoon, 10 minutes before Dominique arrives. But Evans doesn't leave. He walks to his car with his wife, starts the engine, and sits there, waiting. Why would a shift manager clock out during a conflict with a teenage employee and then stay in the parking lot? Engine running, not going anywhere. And why did he have a gun? By the time Dominique's car rolled into that lot, Evans wasn't behind the counter. He was behind the wheel, and he wasn't alone. Let's talk about who Dominique Goodman actually was, because that matters. He wasn't some hothead looking for trouble. He wasn't a street guy with a reputation. Dominique sold cars, Hondas, at Honda South in Morrow, Georgia. He'd been there 3 years, and his manager said he was their top salesman. Not because he was pushy, because he listened, he worked, he showed up on time and closed deals. That's who he was. He had multiple children. Amari was one of them. She wanted to work, make her own money, learn responsibility. So she got a job at Bojangles. It was supposed to be safe. A first job, the kind of place where you learn how to handle customers and follow a schedule. Nothing dangerous about frying chicken and taking orders. When Amari tried to call her father that Sunday, when she accidentally pocket-dialed him instead, Dominique didn't hesitate. His family keeps coming back to that. One relative said it plainly.
I guess her and the manager might have got into it or something like that, so she called her dad, which any child would do, and the dad came up there to see about his daughter.
That's what fathers do. At least that's what Dominique believed. He wasn't armed. His wife later told police that Dominique said he had a gun in the car. But he didn't. It was a bluff. A father trying to sound bigger than he was. Trying to make whoever was bothering his daughter think twice. What this tells you is simple. Dominique's instinct was protection, not violence. He drove 20 miles not knowing what he was walking into. He thought showing up would be enough. He thought his presence would calm things down. Now let's look at the other side. Maurice Evans, 23 years old. Shift manager at that Bojangles. Married. His wife worked there too. No criminal record. No history of violence. By all appearances, just another fast food supervisor trying to keep a kitchen running during a busy Sunday shift. But that day, Maurice wasn't managing. He was arguing with a teenager over a window left open, over food placement, small things that shouldn't have mattered. And when he clocked out at 1:05 in the afternoon, he didn't go home. He went to his car, sat there with his wife. Engine running. Here's what witnesses saw. Dominique pulls into the parking lot around 1:15. He walks up to the passenger side of Maurice Evans' car. The window is down. Dominique asks a simple question. Who's messing with my daughter? Maurice later claims Dominique swiped at him. She'd tried to goad him into a fight, but there was no contact, no punches thrown, no weapon in Dominique's hands. Dominique's wife is standing nearby, watching, waiting to see how this plays out. What happened next didn't last long, but it was loud enough that people inside the restaurant stopped eating. Pause for a second. If your kid called you scared from work, what's your move? Do you go? Do you call the manager? Drop a comment. I'm curious how you'd handle it. Dominique walks up to the passenger window of Maurice Evans' car. Words are exchanged. We don't know exactly what was said, but Maurice later tells police his version. Dominique swung at him, tried to provoke him, told his wife to get a gun from their car. That's Maurice's story. Self-defense. A man protecting himself from an aggressor. But here's what the evidence actually shows. Dominique was unarmed. Confirmed. No gun. No knife. No weapon of any kind. He didn't touch Maurice Evans. No physical contact before the first shot was fired. Maurice claims he fired from inside the car, that he never got out, that he was trapped and had no choice. Detective Marcy Queen with the Palmetto Police Department testified about what really happened, and her testimony tears that story apart. 8 shots total.
Mr. Evans is outside of the vehicle as she's trying to run towards Mr. Goodman's aid. Stated that she saw Mr. Evans standing over Mr. Goodman and shot him 3 additional times.
Dominique tried to run. He turned away from the car. He fled. 3 bullets hit him in the back. And those 3 shots? They came from above, a downward angle, the kind of angle you get when someone is standing over a person already on the ground. You don't get that angle from inside a car. At least 5 witnesses saw what happened. Employees from the restaurant, customers in the parking lot. People who had no reason to lie. They heard the first shots, saw Dominique drop to the pavement, and then they saw Maurice Evans get out of the car. One witness described it clearly. Maurice stood over Dominique, fired again, and again, and again. When police arrived, Maurice didn't run. He didn't try to hide the gun, a 9mm, still on him when officers handcuffed him. He admitted it immediately. No lawyer, no silence. Just a simple statement. I shot him in self-defense. But here's where the story falls apart. If it was self-defense, why did Dominique run? Why would an aggressor turn his back and try to get away? If Maurice feared for his life, why did he get out of the car? Why not drive off? Why not stay inside where he was supposedly safe? And if Dominique was the aggressor, why was he shot in the back? Why was he on the ground when 3 more bullets entered his body? There's another detail that makes this even worse. Amari was in the line of fire. Dominique's daughter, the girl he drove 20 miles to protect. She was close enough that bullets could have hit her. Her father came to help, and she almost died watching him get executed in front of her. The scene at 1:15 on a Sunday afternoon looked like this. Families inside the restaurant eating lunch. The drive-thru still running, and then yellow police tape. Squad cars blocking off the lot. 4 hours of investigation. Dominique's body covered with a tarp. His family arriving. His wife seeing him lying on the pavement. Maurice Evans didn't run. He didn't panic. He didn't try to leave. He waited for the police like he'd done nothing wrong. And that's what made investigators certain this wasn't panic. This wasn't a split-second mistake. It was something else. Here's the question. Do you think Evans planned this, or did he snap in the moment? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to see how you're reading this. Here's what nobody did that day. No one sent Amari home early. No one told Maurice Evans to leave. No one called corporate to report what was happening. No one filed an incident report. The manager who separated them thought it was handled, thought the problem was solved. It wasn't. Our investigators asked the obvious question. Did Maurice know Dominique was coming? Did someone tell him? Did he overhear Amari on the phone? Or was he just sitting there, armed, ready for anything? We don't have a clear answer, but what we do know is that Maurice had a gun on him, and he stayed in that parking lot even after clocking out during a heated conflict with a teenage employee. The Bojangles franchisee released a statement after the shooting. It said, "The safety of our guests and team members is always our top priority." They promised full cooperation with law enforcement. They also said there were no prior incidents at this location. What that means is this wasn't a bad Bojangles. No history of violence, no reputation for trouble, no pattern of workplace disputes turning dangerous. But that day, the system failed. Multiple arguments between a manager and a teenage employee. No real intervention. No one stepping in to stop what was clearly getting out of control. A teenager scared enough to call her dad for help. And a manager sitting in a car with a loaded gun. After the shooting, Amari and her cousin fled Georgia. They were too scared to stay. Even with Maurice Evans arrested and locked up, they didn't feel safe. The memory of what they saw was too much. Think about the weight Amari carries now. She called her dad for help, or tried to, and he came. He drove 20 miles to check on her, and she watched him die, watched Maurice Evans stand over him and fire 3 more shots into his back. She'll carry that for the rest of her life. The courtroom would later reveal just how close Evans came to killing her too, and how little remorse he showed when confronted with that fact. December 8th, 2025. Less than 24 hours after the shooting, Maurice Evans appears before a judge for his first court hearing. The charges: murder, felony, murder, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. His defense? Self-defense. He feared for his life. Dominique Goodman was the aggressor. Maurice had no choice but to shoot. Detective Marcy Queen with the Palmetto Police Department took the stand. She laid out the timeline, reconstructed from surveillance footage, witness statements, and ballistics evidence. Maurice Evans clocked out at 1:05 in the afternoon. Dominique arrived around 1:15. Maurice claimed he never left his vehicle. That he fired from inside the car because Dominique was attacking him through the window. Ballistics evidence said otherwise. 8 shots total. 3 of them hit Dominique in the back, and those 3 shots had a downward trajectory. The angle of the bullets entering his body was consistent with someone standing over him while he was already on the ground. You don't shoot someone in the back from a seated position inside a car, not at that angle. It's physically impossible. Witnesses confirmed what the evidence showed. Maurice Evans exited the vehicle, stood over Dominique, and fired. One witness gave a detailed account to police. She was running toward the scene when she heard the shots. 5 in rapid succession. She saw Maurice outside the car, saw Dominique on the ground, and she saw Maurice stand over him and fire 3 more times. Our prosecutor, Michael Sprinkle, didn't hold back. He told the judge, "This is textbook malice murder. Goodman fled from him. Evans shot him 3 times in the back, stood over him, and shot him 3 times in the back. No hesitation, no panic, execution." The defense argued something different. They said there was significant provocation, that Dominique swung at Maurice, threatened him, created a reasonable fear for his life. They pushed for a voluntary manslaughter charge instead of murder. Heat of passion. A man defending himself in the moment. Judge Todd Ashley listened to both sides, and then he made his ruling. He said, "It was close." But the 3 shots to the back, fired while Dominique was already down on the pavement, made the decision clear. Judge Ashley looked at Maurice Evans and said, "I wish you'd just driven away that day." Bond denied. Maurice Evans would remain in Fulton County Jail. No release, no second chance. The case was sent to a grand jury for further proceedings. Here's what wasn't said in court, but still mattered. Maurice Evans had no prior criminal record, no history of violence, no red flags in his background. He was married, had a stepdaughter, worked a regular job at Bojangles, and in 10 minutes he threw all of that away. Dominique's family had to sit through the hearing. They had to listen to Detective Queen describe how their father, brother, and uncle died, shot 8 times. 3 of those shots fired while he was defenseless on the ground. They had to hear Maurice's lawyer argue that he was justified, that Dominique provoked him, that Maurice had a right to defend himself. They had to hear a judge say, "It was close." But the courtroom wasn't the end, because the question that haunted everyone wasn't just what happened. It was why, and whether it could have been stopped. Here's what we know for certain. Maurice Evans clocked out at 1:05 in the afternoon. Dominique Goodman arrived at 1:15. 10 minutes. Maurice didn't leave. He went to his car, started the engine, sat there with his wife in the passenger seat. And in the question nobody's answered, what was he doing in those 10 minutes? Was he cooling off? Was he waiting? Was he planning what would happen next? The evidence suggests something troubling. Maurice had a gun on him, a 9mm, loaded, ready to fire. He didn't go home. He didn't drive to get food or run an errand. He didn't leave the property. He sat in the parking lot of the place he just clocked out of, right after multiple arguments with a teenage employee. What does that imply? Maurice knew something was coming. Whether he overheard Amari on the phone, or someone told him her father was on the way, or he just assumed backup was coming, he knew, and he stayed. Think about his wife for a moment. She was in the car with him, sitting in the passenger seat. She watched the whole thing unfold. She saw Dominique approach the window, saw the confrontation, saw her husband pull the gun and fire 8 shots. She hasn't spoken publicly since that day. No interviews, no statements beyond what she told police during the investigation. What does that silence mean? Either she's protecting him or she's terrified of what she witnessed. Maybe both. Either way, she's a key witness. Her testimony could determine whether Maurice Evans spends the rest of his life in prison or gets a lesser charge. The 10 minutes changed how people see this case. Initially, some thought maybe it really was self-defense. Maybe Dominique came in aggressive and Maurice panicked. Maybe it was a split-second decision made in fear. But the 10 minutes changed that theory. Because if you're scared, you leave. You drive away. You call the police and let them handle it. And you don't sit in a parking lot with a loaded gun and wait for someone to show up. Investigators believe Maurice made a choice during those 10 minutes. Maybe not a choice to kill, but a choice to confront. A choice not to back down. A choice to be ready for whatever happened next. And when Dominique showed up, that choice became irreversible. The defense can't explain certain things. Why didn't Morris leave? Why did he have a gun at work? Why did he get out of the car after firing the first shots? And why did he stand over Dominique and fire 3 more times into his back? Those questions don't have good answers. At least not answers that support a self-defense claim. The 10 minutes weren't just a gap in the timeline. They were the moment Morris Evans decided what kind of man he was going to be. And Dominique Goodman paid for that decision with his life. If you're still with me, subscribe and turn on notifications. Cases like this don't get the attention they deserve, and I need you here for the next one. Let's keep going. Dominique Goodman wasn't a headline. He was a person. He worked at Honda South in Morrow, Georgia, for 3 years. Top salesman, the kind of guy who could close a deal because he listened to what customers needed, because he cared about doing the job right. His coworkers didn't just lose a colleague that day, they lost someone they respected, someone who showed up every single day and did the work without complaint. His family said he was a devoted father. He had multiple children. Amari was one of them. He wasn't perfect. Nobody is. But he was present. He answered the phone when his kids called, and he showed up when they needed him. And that's what got him killed. Think about what his daughter has to live with now. She called her dad, or tried to, and he came. He drove 20 miles to check on her, and she watched him get shot, watched him fall to the pavement, watched Maurice Evans stand over him and fire 3 more bullets into his back. The memory of what they witnessed was too much. Christmas 2025 should have been a normal holiday for the Goodman family. Dominique probably had gifts bought already, plans made, time off scheduled from the dealership. Instead, his family planned a funeral. Marlene. Lately, Dominique's relative said it perfectly. Here come Christmas, they waiting. And he probably got everything ready for them, and now you got to spend the holidays without your dad. The community lost more than just one man that day. They lost a father, a hard worker, a man who believed showing up for your kids mattered more than anything else. Maurice Evans lost something too, his freedom, his future, his family. At 23 years old, he had a wife, a stepdaughter, a job, a life ahead of him. And in 8 seconds, he destroyed all of it. Look at the asymmetry of what happened. Dominique came to protect his daughter. Maurice came to confront. Dominique was unarmed. Maurice had a 9mm. And Dominique died on the pavement. Maurice lived and now sits in a jail cell. But the story doesn't end with the shooting, because the system that let this happen is still in place. And the questions it raises are bigger than one parking lot in Georgia. Maurice Evans is in Fulton County Jail. No bond, awaiting trial. He's charged with murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. If convicted, he faces life in prison. But there are things we still don't know. Why did he stay in that parking lot? What was he thinking during those 10 minutes between clocking out and Dominique arriving? Does he regret what he did? Does he understand what he took from the Goodman family? We don't have answers to those questions. Maybe we never will. What this case revealed is something bigger than one shooting. Workplace disputes can turn deadly when there's no intervention. A teenager and a shift manager argued over a window left open and food placement, and a father died because of it. Nobody called corporate. Nobody sent anyone home early. Nobody stepped in to de-escalate before things got out of control. Dominique's family is left with grief, trauma, questions that will never have satisfying answers. Amari will never forget what she saw. She'll carry it for the rest of her life. She'll never stop asking herself, what if I hadn't called? What if I'd just gone home? That's not fair, but it's the reality she has to live with. The system is left with a case that should never have happened. A man who should have driven away. I had a father who should still be selling Hondas and planning Christmas with his kids. This wasn't a gang shooting. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was 2 men in a parking lot, and one of them had a gun. Here's the haunting part. Dominique Goodman did everything right. He was a good father, a hard worker, A man who showed up when his kids needed him. And it didn't matter, because Maurice Evans made a choice. And that choice erased everything Dominique was and everything he could have been. So we're left asking questions that don't have easy answers. How many more fathers have to die in parking lots before we take workplace violence seriously? How many more teenagers have to watch their parents bleed out because someone couldn't walk away? How many more families have to bury someone over an argument that didn't matter? Here's the final question, the one that keeps me up at night. If you were Maurice Evans' wife sitting in that car, watching your husband pull a gun on an unarmed man, what do? Do you scream? Do you grab his arm? Do you beg him to stop? Do you call the police? Or do you freeze? Do you stay silent? Do you become a witness to something you can never unsee? We don't know, because she hasn't said. She gave a statement to police, but beyond that, she's been silent. No interviews, no public comments, nothing. And maybe that's the most terrifying part of all. Because somewhere in that silence is the answer to whether this could have been stopped. Whether one voice, one plea, one moment of intervention could have saved Dominique Goodman's life. But we'll never know. Rest in peace to Dominique Goodman, a father who showed up when his daughter needed him. A man who believed protection mattered more than pride. And to everyone watching, if someone you love calls scared, think twice before you rush in alone. Sometimes showing up means calling for help first. Sometimes walking away saves more lives than standing your ground. Stay safe out there. We'll see you in the next one.